inside the business relationship is so big, that taking care, that being reliable, showing up.
Hello, you beautiful creatures. This is Sarah Noah, and you're listening to Tiny Marketing. Today, we are wrapping up our branding series, and we are talking all about how to increase your lifetime value with clients through brand. I'm talking to Amy Posner, and she gave me some really great insights on how you can set up your client experience for success from the very beginning, like before they even work with you in the lead generation process, all the way through to experience and the little pieces that you can include within that client experience that will increase the value, i.e., help you make more money. I really loved this episode and I can't wait to get into it. So stay tuned, and I'm going to share my conversation with Amy right now. Hey, Amy, we are recording now. We are live. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Hello, I'm Amy Posner. I am a business growth mentor based in the States. And I'm pretty much a 30-year serial entrepreneur. So lots of stuff to back behind that, but that's the real short version.
Well, I'm curious, what have been all of the serials that have happened? What were your other businesses?
Well, it's funny. I did not want to be a business person. I grew up in a family business, and I got a job. I got a job in New York City, working for someone where I just had a lot of marketing ideas for him and a lot of business ideas, and we would sit and talk. Anyway, he offered me the opportunity to become a partner in his business and take it in another direction. And that was it. I was off and running. And so what we did is we built computers in our office at night, and then we computerized businesses during the day. It was the early days of computers, and it was kind of Wild Westy, really fun. From there, I became a partner in a marketing, typography, and design agency. Sold that, and that was my first taste of like, ooh, you can like do things as an entrepreneur you can't do otherwise. Because I moved out of a 2,000 square foot loft in Manhattan onto a 28-foot sailboat with a dog.
You completely changed your life.
Completely.
You're like, you know what? I want something different. And that's the amazing thing about being an entrepreneur is you have that ability. You can just say, you know what? This doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah. And we were really lucky. We were able to sell our agency and, figure out the next thing while having an adventure. And then I became a sales trainer. Really good at sales. I ended up becoming a sales trainer, sort of as an independent, but as an adjunct. And then I started. I ran, and years ago in the 90s, I ran something called the National Copywriting Center. So that was a discipline I was familiar with, and I'd always written copy. So about a decade ago, I opened copywriting and marketing consultancy, and that morphed into me being a coach and a mentor. And there you had it. All these things. My first business, though, that computer consulting business, is still going today. It's more other things and management consulting, but yeah, it still exists. I'm very, very surprised and very proud of that. But I sold out from my partner, and he's still running the business. So
that's
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's sort of shocking. Yeah.
You are so brave to be able to take that leap. I was not that brave. It took me like 10 years of side hustling while working full time to finally take my business full time. And it was so stupid. It honestly was, because it was like, I'm so much more secure with 10 streams of income than one. What was I afraid of?
Well, afraid of having to do it all on your own or make all the decisions. There's so many.
That wasn't even the fear. That wasn't even the fear I was having. But now that I live in it, that is the hardest part, is having to do it all.
Yeah, it's very brave. I mean, I did it. I think I just did it as like blind, sort of stupid. Like, oh yeah, well, sure, I'll try this. And then I found out I loved it. But
yeah, it worked.
It wasn't intentional though. Just to be fair, it was totally backdoor.
I feel like it rarely is intentional. Like the side hustling thing just started because I lost my job during the recession and I needed to make some income. And then after that experience, like, oh my gosh, my company can just decide I'm not working there anymore and I don't have an income. After that, I was like, I'm always going to have a side income. And so it came out of necessity more than anything.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I think like it's necessity, but there's got to be like a little entrepreneurial spark there, or
I
some
definitely
kind of
loved it.
because
Yeah,
that's not what everyone turns to of necessity, right?
there's an energy to it, isn't there? Where you're like,
Yeah,
I can create something new that's never existed before that you can't get doing anything else.
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's like the biggest sandbox in the world, which is kind of terrifying. Or, blank sandbox. It's kind of terrifying and kind of exciting. It's like that, that cliche. Like the good news is it's up to you. The bad news is it's up to you.
Yeah, true. Well, all this entrepreneur talk, and today we're talking to entrepreneurs because we're digging into how to increase that lifetime value, which is where a lot of our money come from. It's like reoccurring clients, right? It's people who have worked with us before and they're like, yeah, I like you. Let me do this again. So how do we do that better? Let's start.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go, please.
I was just going to say, let's start first with the very beginning step with lead generation. How do you prime that experience with them to be a long-term relationship?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we talk a lot about nurture, right? That word gets thrown around a lot. And we talk about the idea of, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And as sort of corny and cliche as it sounds, it's true.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
It just is. And like the digital world is no different than the real world. And so, it's funny. I think it's almost like we feel like things should be speeded up or different online. And like, how would you make a friend offline, or how would you, talk to somebody who is a potential client? So I think that's the first thing, is to remember that we need to like get to know people, and people need to get to know us. And I think the other thing that factors in here is like length of buying decision and how long it takes somebody to make a decision, right? Like if I buy what you sell, I may have somebody who I already buy it from, or I may not buy it on the regular. So what has to happen is I need to have the opportunity. I need to need you, right? I either need to be impressed by you so that I think, ooh, I'm buying this service, but I think I could get more over here. And that's something that happens over time because I've seen you and I see what you say and I see what you're about. So there's that part of the decision-making process that where somebody, if you're going to think of them as a lead, like as somebody who's your potential client, they get to know, like, and trust you over time. And that's how they can make a buying decision. So it starts, I believe, that was a little lengthy, but I'd like to sum it up. I believe it's about exchanging value before money changes hands. And so that you deliver value, be useful, make an impression.
Yeah, that has been my experience too. That's why I'm always shouting from the rooftop, have some sort of core content that you can rely on. So you're consistently building that having people discover you, trust, providing value, and know, like, and trust. Know, like, trust. They know you exist. They like you and they trust you because of the value. And you can do that by showing up when you say you're going to, by listening to them and creating content that they're asking for. And that's how it happens. How do you do it?
Just that. I really enjoy being generous. Like it's kind of weird. I mean, I don't like giving stuff away. I mean, I do like being paid for my work. Don't get me wrong, but I just really like giving people help, giving them information, trying to figure out. I mean, I see the whole relationship as like a problem solution one, right? Like clients have a problem, we have a solution. Is there a fit? Is your problem something I want to solve? But I think that happens in that, I don't know, I kind of think of it as a courtship process, right? The long-term content process. It's like, as you're sort of revealing what you believe and how you can help people, people will be drawn to you. And I see this, and tell me if you do too, that, and there's this moment where there's like either a generosity where you continue helping them, or you pivot like, oh, I want to sell something, right? Like you capture attention and like you try and squander that attention almost, right? Like, oh, you're paying attention to me. I see dollar signs. I want to sell you something. And I think that's a point in a relationship where it's like, let me give you something. Let me connect. Let's let's just explore a little bit what's here. And that might not even be in a conversation. It might be still in this, in this world of content. But I think that's the key is looking to give, and what can you give and how can you be generous, and like, what is that correct moment of transaction, and understanding that and not trying to get there too quickly. And like sort of the dating analogy is, right? Like you don't go out for coffee and ask someone to marry you. It's like we need to have some meals first and like do some other things, right? So
yeah. So no one listening sees me, but I was smiling when you were talking about the courtship thing, because I talk about that all the time, that like that early stage content, like the discovery mechanism where people find you, it's like a handshake. And your job is to make that relationship a little bit more intimate with each interaction. So it becomes so much more intimate when you have a podcast, for example, and they're listening to you and you're in their ears, and it's a long conversation because maybe they're binging and they're listening to one after the next. And then maybe you invite them to a virtual event. Like the series, how I structure my content is a series of similar topics, and then I end it in some sort of virtual event. And when you get there, it's even more intimate because you have that one-to-one interaction. You're asking that person questions. You're seeing their face. It's a live thing. And that is really intimate experience. And then if you can connect one-on-one after that, it's even closer. So it is exactly like that, like a courtship. And what you were talking about with selling, I'm a very passive seller, where like any sales thing I have is more of a PS. Like I'll create some value and then it'll be like my signature at the bottom of my LinkedIn post that explains what I do, or a PS in an email, or an ad in my podcast. But I'm not selling you, because I'm just reminding you what I do. So when you're ready, you can come to me. But I'm not an active seller. Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs and B2B marketers. Before we dive back into the conversation, let me introduce you to a game changer in the lead generation arena, Leadfeeder. Now, we all know the struggle of identifying those elusive website visitors and turning them into valuable leads. But what if I told you there's a tool that not only promises, but delivers on supercharging your lead generation and sales efforts? Enter Leadfeeder. Imagine having the power to identify companies visiting your website, track their behavior in real time, and seamlessly integrate it all with your CRM. Leadfeeder is not just a tool, it's your secret weapon for efficient and targeted lead engagement. What sets Leadfeeder apart? It's the ability to provide detailed insights into visitor behavior, helping your sales team prioritize efforts and close deals faster. With customizable notifications, lead scoring, and GDPR compliance, Leadfeeder is changing the game. Ready to revolutionize your approach to leads and deals? Head over to leadfeeder.com for your free demo today. That's LEADFEEDER.com. Don't miss out on the future of successful lead generation with Leadfeeder.
And that works great for you, right? Doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, it's selling.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, I mean, like for the type of people that you want to attract, I think it's really attractive, right? It's like, there are all kinds of ways to access you and find out about you and learn from you without having to spend money. So, I mean, that just makes you feel really good about a person. I mean, if you like what they're saying, and if what they're saying, has value and is meaningful to you. Yeah.
There's definitely an element of attraction and repelling, because if you're being your authentic self in the content you create, you're not going to be for everyone. If you are, then you're not being real. You're just boiling it down to this bland version of yourself. That's not truly you.
No, and then you end up with basket clients, right?
Yes.
Right? Because like when you're you attract the people who want to work with you and not
Yeah.
some facsimile of you. And so like it ends up, it's a much smoother situation from the get-go.
Yeah, it really, really is. If you put on this corporate mask of yourself in your content, and then you're attracting just whoever, and they start working with you and they start getting to know the real you, then it might be like, they're like, no, not for me. But they've only seen this fake version of yourself. And you don't want to keep that up. That causes a lot of just friction in your body. You should be comfortable being yourself, and you'll find people who love you for that.
Yeah. And it's great advice. And I think it can be a tricky place to reach. It was for me. And I don't know, like, what do you recommend? Like in terms of, I don't know, like, right. Remember that the old cliche, I'm full of cliches this morning, apparently. Facts tell, stories sell. Right. And so like story is it, right? Like story is what works. But how do you do that? Like, especially in the B2B space. I mean, like is there a measure of like how, and I'm now here I'm talking about like there's authenticity and there's personal story. And
well, I think those are one and the same.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Like, is there like a line you go up to and don't cross, or do you like, how do you structure that? Or do you not think about it in those terms?
I don't think about it in those terms. I think if you're, one, I'm not going to tell intimate secrets about myself in my business content, if that's what you're asking, because that's a whole different thing. But I am going to show my full personality to you. And I think that storytelling and telling you about my experiences is one way I can do that.
Yeah,
It's
and that
more of
is,
a
I'm like,
mechanism.
yeah, and no, and that is what I'm asking. And I don't think, right, obviously, like you don't want to share intimate details, and there's like there's a boundary, and it's business. But I'm just wondering, because people ask about that a lot. Like, is there, like, what do you have to do to be authentic? Like, do you have to reveal something about yourself? And I think it's more about like being, like, just being who you are. Like, if you're quirky, being
Yeah.
quirky, like that's it, right?
I'm with you. I'm on the exact same page. I don't think that everyone in the world should know about the details of your personal life. That's your own, and that is personal, and that's fine. I think if you're a weirdo, be a weirdo. Be your true personality and feel comfortable with that is what I mean by authenticity. You don't have to be vulnerable and share all your dirt.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to ask about that because I get asked about it all the time, and I'm really private, like as a person. So I like I don't cross that line. I don't want to get personal.
I don't either. It's no one's business.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying. Because
I am with you. We are on the same page there.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, so we're attracting the right clients through the lead generation process and through that know, like, trust process, creating our content. That's how we're getting the right clients in the door. What is next? Now they are clients. How do we increase the lifetime value of that experience with them?
So interestingly, I think it's kind of in the lead process, but maybe the post lead process a little bit. So I think inside of the discovery call, like right from when you start initially, you're looking to uncover more than just the project, right? You're really looking to like, well, I'll ask somebody like, why are you here? Like, what's the genesis of the call? Like there's something going on if they're looking to hire somebody to help them in their business. And so when you start to uncover all of those things, like they maybe say, there's all these things that need to happen right now. I'm looking to do X, right? And that's why we're in this conversation. But usually inside of X and inside of this bigger picture that they want, there are things that could look like not longer term contracts, but like ongoing projects. Let's put it that way. And so, but you don't want to be like, you don't want to jump in like all excited, like, oh, I see a million things I can do for you. Like you want to stay on point, but you want to mentally note that there are other things that they want and that there are other things that you could do. So that's one piece is like, what what's going to serve people best long-term and what fits with what they need right now. And how can you, can you think about the two and can you talk about the two? And when is that appropriate? So I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing is, I think a lot of contractors tend to like do the thing and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity to follow up as part of the project. And depending on what you do, of course, but there's always like opportunity to optimize, like to improve or to tweak or to see like how something is performing. And what I would do with clients is say, like as a copywriter, I would say to them, okay, I'm going to write this copy. You're going to have paid me. The project's going to have ended, but then your designer's going to get it live. And at that point, I want to come back and like reserve the right to improve things, right? Which nobody is going to object to, right? Oh, I've already paid you and you want to do work for me. Great. Super. But for me, that's how I can feel really good about the project because I can get in there and it's true. When I see it live, I see different things. But that's been a real, gateway is the word that's popping into my mind to bigger projects and to other projects longer term. Like looking at what needs to be done. And it's not saying like my work isn't good. My work needs to be redone, but it might need to be redone. It might need to be changed. We might learn things from, the 3 months that they've implemented what we've been working on. And now we say, hey, let's push these levers and let's do this and this and that. So I think, but a lot of people leave and I don't think it's because they don't want to continue working or don't want to continue helping the client. They think it's like, okay, here's the project. It starts at A, it ends at Z. Z happened. I'm out. See ya. And they don't realize that they can offer sort of follow through. I mean, sometimes follow through is paid. Sometimes it isn't, but it should always be there. I think there should be that follow up and that feeling of continuity, which also makes people feel really taken care of. It's very comforting for them to know you're not abandoning them when when you get your last payment.
I cannot tell you how many people ask me that straight up, like, but when this project's done, how can I continue working with you? Don't abandon me. And I get it because they're not marketers. They like if something goes wrong or it needs optimized or we need to audit it down the line, they don't want to do that. That's not their thing. But I'm going to reiterate what you said. So to start off, I always recommend that founders have some sort of gateway offer that's high value, low cost. And this is the perfect place to have like an audit of whatever it is, the thing that you do, a report, a brief, a strategy. To have that first where you're digging into the business and you're discovering all of what they would need in order to reach their goals, do that first. And then you can start planning out what that first project looks like. You'll know exactly what projects you can pitch later on when it would matter to them, when it would make sense for them in that season of business. And then the second part of what you said would be to schedule like ongoing audits or optimizations with that client, maybe once a quarter, where you can hop back in that business and you can really support them ongoing. You build so much trust that way. They know they can rely on you and that you're not just, saying, learn to swim and then letting them flounder out in the ocean. Hey friends, it's Sarah here, and I am just popping over to let you know that I don't just talk about marketing, I do marketing. If you're interested in working with Tiny Marketing to get crystal clear on how to market to your business, then you can hire me to create your strategic story and all-in-one messaging, marketing, and content strategy, or become an authority to your target market by building your own media channels from podcasts to webinars to killer newsletters. I help you own the stage. That's right, friends. You can amplify your visibility, your authority, and become the go-to expert for your target audience, those dream clients. It all gets started with that 15-minute fit call. So here's your call to action. Go to the show notes page and get one scheduled now.
It's so true. And, it's interesting too, because, and tell me if you experience this too, like the audit is so useful because often nobody knows what's needed. right? Like the
No.
client shows up and they know an end result that they want. And sometimes they think like, here's why I want to fire you for this particular thing to get to this end result. But the particular thing isn't always the thing, right? Like they may have seen
No.
something in the wild that's working for someone else, but they don't really know the full picture. So like there's some analysis that needs to be done to even figure out like what's going to solve the problem best. And I think sometimes
Yeah.
people like they can't, they're not allowed to swim in that messy piece. Like if someone comes to them and they want something, I feel like the provider almost feels like, oh, well, I should know what it is. And I should just be able to like, okay, here's X, Y, and Z, and that'll solve the problem. And sometimes you need to get in there and dig around and see like, what do they have and what's been working and why has it been working and how long has it been working or not working and by doing that, you can actually come up with a better project scope that's going to serve the client better. Because otherwise you risk getting in there and going, oh, geez, I wish I had known this at the outset because we really should maybe go here before we go there. And so it can really benefit both parties to like get in there and dig around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Having that type of gateway offer does so much for you because you'll understand the full scope of what they need and plan it out appropriately. And your client won't be disappointed when they're like, this didn't solve my problem. The thing that I thought would solve my problem didn't solve it, because that's really the difference between a freelancer and a business. Is a freelancer is given the to-dos, where a business owner takes the reins and is the expert, and they're hired to find the problem and fix it.
100%. I mean, I call it the difference between the order taker and the expert.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, yeah. And, it's interesting. Like you said very early in the episode, you said something about like being reliable. And like, it's so fascinating to me how many people aren't reliable and don't show up and like take really good care of people. Like if you do those things, you really, really stand out. And it's funny because it's a layer of expertise that I think people don't think about. We tend to think more about like our craft and the service we offer. But like the customer service and the taking care of people and being reliable, I mean, that's like, that elevates you into an expert status in another way that really commands more money. Yeah.
And it will attract them to that increased lifetime value, because I'm sure we've all heard it a million times that people remember how you made them feel. And if you're providing an amazing experience, they're going to remember that you made them feel good, you helped them, and they will want to work with you again.
Yeah. And some of that comes from like just being like taking the time, right, to talk to them and like unearth problems and being willing to have a conversation. Like, for example, I was saying earlier, like some of these things will surface in the discovery call. And there's so much stuff out there about like, have to keep your discovery call to 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm like, why? Like, how do like, why not an hour? Why not like give people ideas, give them some of your best stuff, like show them how this problem could get solved. Like why, if they're willing to have a conversation with you and open up about their business, like, oh, sorry, geez, we've been talking 15 minutes, got to wrap. But I know people that do that because that's what they've been taught. And so I think part of like what we're talking about here is like it's a relationship, right? It's an organic process. It's a way of like getting to know someone and take care of them. And it really matters. I think inside the business relationship, it's so big, that taking care, that being reliable, showing up. I don't know why that's so hard to do. They seem like basic things, right? They do to me. I don't know.
They really do. But you're right. I have hired enough contractors where I've realized, oh, not everybody does what they say they're going to do. And being able to do that makes you stand out from the crowd, which is
it really does. I mean, shockingly. I don't know. I mean, I've hired contractors too. People like I thought were like really professional. It turns out that they weren't. Like inside of a project, they left me hanging. They didn't tell me what was going on. They ghosted. All kinds of stuff. And it's like stuff that's really, anyway, I guess what we're talking about, but it's really easy not to not do that stuff and like be reliable, like be generous, be courteous, show up, be gracious, give. It's like you get so much from that. And I know maybe you have to be wired that way. Maybe you have to like doing that. I guess you could learn to like doing that, couldn't you?
You could. If you wanted to have a business that's successful, you could learn to like it. I would say like the point of this tangent we're on is that it is not hard to be amazing. All you have to do is do what you say you will do. That is what's
Yeah.
going to earn the trust. So we're coming up on time, and I want to reiterate where we've gone so far. So in order to increase that lifetime value for our client, it all starts in that lead generation part where we're earning trust with them. And that starts with giving them value without asking for anything in return, and building that relationship, making it a little bit more intimate with every step of the way. And then once you've gotten onto that discovery call phase and that selling process, giving them the space to be able to talk about their problems and um, let you be the expert and help solve those issues. Move into some sort of gateway offer where you're doing an audit, you're doing a strategy, you're doing a brief where you're uncovering all of the problems and you're finding the solutions for them. So you know what projects need to happen in order to get to that end goal that the client really has. And then the last piece of it is to schedule regular audits or optimizations with your past client. So you have a reason to continue adding value, continuing that relationship, driving value. And those are also points where you can say, well, we identified this project during the initial audit. This is a perfect time to do that based off of XYZ. So those are all great ways to increase the lifetime value. Is there anything that I missed?
I don't think so. You captured it remarkably well. I don't. Do you have like an amazing memory? I don't know. Can you take notes?
Thank you. I've been interviewing people for 4 years now. I've gotten skilled at this.
Yeah, you're really good at it. Yeah, I think you covered all the points, and I think like what circles around all of it is like be generous and be yourself, and be willing to be in conversations with people and build relationships. Like don't, I guess what that means is like don't be so transactional, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Is like the beginning, like that A point that you talked about, it was like A to Z and now I'm done. That's a transactional relationship where what you just described that increases the lifetime value, that is an ongoing relationship where you're continuing and it's not just a boop, boop, add to cart situation. It's a real relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for people to hear too, because I think they don't they need to be given permission to like give the full experience to people sometimes, or to know what that is. So
yeah, you're right. Because a lot of the experts, the voices out there say, you need to keep it transactional because you need to control the amount of time that you're spending. You need to make sure that you're optimizing your processes. And you do need to do all of those things, but do it within reason. So you're not discounting the relationship building aspect of your work.
And interestingly, there's monetary value there too. I mean, people will pay really well to be well taken care of. And so don't forget that like that time spent, you do get paid for, right? You don't get paid for it like immediately, and it's not directly linked to that like a particular activity, but you can bake it all in. You can bake into your pricing the ability to give excellent service and spend the time.
Absolutely. That's a great point to bring up, that it might feel like you're giving without without any return, but people do pay for a better experience. I know I do. I have contractors that I absolutely adore. They give me the best experience possible, and I know that I am paying a little bit more for them than I would for someone else, and that is fine by me.
Oh, it is so worth it. And it is worth every single half penny, even. It just is.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So how can people work with you, and where do you spend your time online if they want to follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as a business growth mentor. My site is amyposner.com. I have a 5-day email drip course about identifying your ideal clients. And I think a lot of it starts there. It's like, if you know who you're a fit for, all of the stuff that we've talked about, just happens way more easily. And so that's what I'm about. I'm about like the business side of the creatives, the creative business people, or people who are, who are working digitally, and I'm helping them to sort out this business stuff so that they can eat better, because, like, as we've been talking about, this is what makes the relationship and this is what makes your business, is having the business skills and be able to lay some of these other things over. So anyway, that's what I'm about. And that's where you can find me.
You are absolutely correct right there. Creative businesses. Can you just tell us real quick what kind of creative businesses you're working with?
I work with a lot of people who are working strictly digitally. So it could be copywriters, web designers, web coders. And actually, I do work with other people like photographers or people who are working in the creative space, but, where it's more, or our
Like location
IRL.
based.
Right. They actually have to pull stuff. But pretty much anyone who's running a small business, all of these things apply. And a lot of these people happen to be freelance just because of the economy and the nature of the current beast. But, it's anyone running a small to medium sized business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will put these links in the show notes, and absolutely take her up on that drip course, because she is absolutely correct that finding your dream client who you can serve best and who would have the best transformation from the offer that you have makes all the difference in the world. And it should be your guiding light for all of the content you create, your messaging, absolutely everything. It's so important. Thank you for joining me today. Before I say goodbye, I just want to remind you that I am hosting a workshop on May 22nd at 12 p.m. Central Time, where I will teach you how to create the perfect one-liner for your business. It's going to be quick and easy, and you will have your actual one-liner by the end of the session. So the session itself should be about 30 minutes. And for anyone who wants to stick around, we'll do a little networking for 15 minutes afterwards, no obligations. But make sure to go down to the show notes page and sign up for that workshop May 22nd. And if you can't show up live, which would definitely be better because we're actually going to be doing the work during the session, you will get the recording though. All right, now to the outro. That wraps up that. I hope that you got a ton out of my conversation with Amy. To reiterate what you should walk away from this with, you want to start in the lead generation process with priming the relationship with them. You want that relationship to be more intimate, and you can do that through creating content, and that know, like, trust factor will happen with time. Next, when you're working with a client, start off with a gateway offer that builds trust. And this should be something like a strategy, an audit, a report, a way that you can gather all of the information you need about their business and help them build a strategy to reach their goals. So you know what projects make sense, and you know the entire scope of what they need from the get-go. Last, once your project is complete, you want to have these little touch points throughout the year and include that as part of your package. So have quarterly audits, quarterly optimization sessions, something that will keep the relationship going, where you can bring up these other projects that came up during the gateway offer. So these are some simple ways that you can increase the lifetime value you have with your client, and you can implement them today. That's how easy they are. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Just like I'll sit here right now while you hit that share button, and share it with someone who could really use this advice and increase the income they're making from those hard-earned new clients. Before you go, if you haven't noticed, there's a new feature on the Tiny Marketing Pod where you can click in the show notes and text me. I won't have your number, But you can text me questions that came up during the episode, your comments, your topic preferences, whatever. But go down to the show notes page and you will find that click to text, and you'll be able to reach me and let me know what you want from this show.